Do the Miami Dolphins have a plan for 2025? Welcome to another edition of Dolphins In Depth, podcast provided to you by the Miami Herald. I'm your host, Miami Dolphins columnist Omar Kelly, and joining me is Isaiah Smalls, Miami Dolphins beat writer who finished his first season with the Miami Dolphins and is learning about the life of dysfunction. Isaiah, here's my point. I'm getting a little frustrated with Dolphin fans.
Okay.
We are now in week 2 of the season is over. They're still in their woe is me mentality. And I am tired of the complaining and the being from Dolphin fans about these facts. Chris Greer is not fired. He's not going anywhere.
Yeah, he's here.
The opposing teams caught up to Mike McDaniel's offense. He's back for another season. He's not going anywhere. Tyreek Hill is not a happy camper in Miami. Unfortunately, despite what Dolphin fans think, he's not going anywhere. There is going to be no fire sale for Tyreek Hill. Tua can't stay healthy. He's not going anywhere. He is your quarterback. You have proposed to him. You gave him a $243 million contract over 5 years. These are all your realities as a Dolphin fan. My question to you is, now what?
Oh, wow. Well, I guess, one, you got to do everything in your power to not lose Weaver. That's step number one. You better, I think now it's about building up that defense, making sure that defense is okay. And then
I'm not sure that's accurate, considering they're going to be kind of stripped apart in many ways from a defensive standpoint.
That's what I'm saying. And so I would want to have someone in the building who's gotten me a top 10 defense to be able to help me fill in these roster spots. That's step one. Actually, no, that's step two. Step one is fortifying the offensive line. You need to figure that out. You need to the offensive line has to be just 10 times better than it was last year, because it just you couldn't run the ball, can't run the ball, you can't really pass. You're substituting these short little throws, these little dink and dunk throws in there for Tua, and that's cool, that's great. But obviously, as soon as he went down, the whole entire offense just looked different, right? So that's an issue. So I think if you fortify the offensive line, you'll be good. Fortify the offensive line. Don't let Weaver out the door. And then 3, just pray. Pray for a good draft. Pray for a good draft. If I'm a Dolphins fan, that's what I'm doing, praying for a good draft. I mean, Chop Robinson, that was a great pick. Patrick Paul's showing a little bit of promise.
I don't know if it was a great pick. Michael Parsons is a great pick. Chop Robinson is a productive player who's a limited one-trick pony. No offense to those who are Chop Robinson fans out there.
Look, he looked. I think you look at what he could do, which he can rush the passer with the best of them, right? And look, that's fine. If that's who he is, at least for right now. Hopefully, he's getting some working, getting some skills. Some honing on some different skills to be able to be a run stopper over there as well. But I mean, look, I think the draft is ultimately what it's come down to. I think you should fortify the offensive line during the draft. I wouldn't also, and I talk about this and we'll get into this a little bit later, but I wouldn't draft the quarterback. I don't think that that's the right decision, personally. If Tua's your guy, that's leaves much to be desired. But if Tua's your guy, then
How could Tua not be your guy? In 2021, he led the NFL in passer rating.
Mm-hmm.
In 2023, he was the NFL's top yards producer for the first game that he played all 17 games.
Yeah.
Also led the NFL's number one offense from start to finish for the year.
I agree. What happened at the end of the year? Wait, what happened at the end of the year?
At the end of the year. Oh, what happened at the end of the year? They were playing. You talking about the playoffs, or you talking about Baltimore? You talking about losing? You talking about losing to the Buffalo Bills, the Baltimore Ravens? No, I'm sorry, Baltimore Ravens in a game that was winner take all, AFC number 1 seed, MVP of the league. Okay, you got smacked, no problem. Okay, the next week you lost the AFC Championship to the Buffalo Bills, who really came down to the final drive, and you flopped. The offensive line gave up too much pressure. Too much pressure was on the quarterback. He could not deliver. And then the playoffs, you played in the 4th coldest game in NFL history. on a field where you literally both teams could only throw the ball going in one direction because the other direction was a disaster. You had no running game because you didn't have Raheem Mostert. And then you had no second receiver because Jaylen Waddle was out there playing on one leg, and you looked like a horrible team. And is that all Tua's fault, or is it all his performance?
Of course not. I'm not blaming all of that on him. However, I think what needs, and again, like I don't want to get too much into make this about Tua, right? Because I think it's bigger than him, right? I think he's probably one of the most solid options that they, in terms of positional fills, like that's good. You're good right there, right? Whether I'm not even gonna say that, but he's no, because my thing is this, like. The performance against, I know we talk about that this might be overblown, but like the performance against good teams is just, it just hasn't been there. Like, and of course, like the Bills game this year, like a 61-yard field goal. That's the difference between them winning and them losing, right?
But
and
when
like,
he left the field, his team had the lead. You do remember that, correct?
I do remember. And I'm saying that's not on him, but it's just it. Obviously, the quarterback is the position that gets the most scrutiny, right? Win, lose, or draw, and they're only on the field for very little time, considerably, right? But I think at the same time, there were plays missed that game, right? Like let's not act like
every quarterback misses plays. Josh Allen misses plays.
Josh Allen misses plays, but Josh Allen wins. We obviously has a big game on Saturday, right? And that'll. Funny enough, just quick non sequitur. I just left the unrivaled guy, fully suited out in Bills, like Bills jacket, Bills pants, Bills hat, and just quick question. How do you feel? And he said he's nervous. So like I say that to say, right, like that. To your point, like quarterbacks make mistakes, right? But it's just I think at the end of the day. Right. What ultimately comes down to is what you just mentioned, right? There are certain people that aren't going anywhere. Tua's not going anywhere. Chris Greer's not going anywhere. Mike McDaniel's not going anywhere. And so the question then
Tyreek is not going anywhere either.
Tyreek also isn't going anywhere yet, right? So it's with those four things in place, like it's about filling out the rest of the team, right? And I think once you get that offensive line down, you're going to be in a much better position on the offensive side of the ball, right? Defensively, to your point, at least much to be desired because there's a lot of holes that you need to fill. Both safety spots are essentially up for grabs.
Cornerback, inside linebacker, a defensive tackle. You need two. Hopefully, you get some edge players back, or do you want to chance it on? Oh, we're going to get these guys healthy eventually, and end up with nobody like you had this year. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I did want to ask you this question because I saw in the Miami Herald, you wrote a piece on the quarterback and not the starting quarterback who has a 63% winning percentage, 63% winning percentage. By the way, I know that everybody's like, oh, he can't beat good teams. Oh, he can't play in the cold. Oh, he can't stay healthy. Understand all of those things. He also wins 63% of his games. Mm-hmm. Say whatever you want. And I hate this whole narrative about, oh, he can't beat good teams. Did he beat the Rams when they were a good team? He did. And the Rams just so happened to have smacked around the Minnesota Vikings.
But there's no transitive law of football. Just because they beat them doesn't mean that, what I'm saying? Like that doesn't, let's throw that out.
But they're in the playoffs.
They are in the playoffs. That was their most good team
when the Dolphins played them or not.
That's real. That's real. That loss turned around their season.
What loss? You mean the Rams lost to Miami? Turned around their season?
Yeah, turned around the Rams.
They won 3 straight games coming into the Dolphins. So the Dolphins took on and beat a good team. Nobody will ever give them credit for that, but he did it. And I hate when people always say this. Last time I checked, when the Dolphins beat Jacksonville Jaguars, they were coming off a playoff run. Yeah, they're one of the worst teams in the NFL, but that was at the start of the season. So when the Dolphins beat them, were they a good team or a bad team? When the Dolphins beat the Los Angeles Chargers the year before in the season opener, even though they tanked, they sucked that season, were they a good team or a bad team? Because they were just coming off a playoff as well. I hate this narrative of Dolphins can't beat good teams. I don't like that. You know what the Dolphins can beat? and this is proven, they can't beat physical teams. They can't beat teams that push them around at the line of scrimmage. Titans haven't been a good team in 2 years. Dolphins can't beat them. You know why? Because they're a physical team that wins at the line of scrimmage. So I would adjust that narrative to not they can't beat good teams. It's Green Bay is physical. Baltimore is physical. Tennessee is physical. Buffalo is physical. They struggle versus physical teams. So, yes, I would say reinforce the trenches. But flipping the conversation to what you wrote about in the Miami Herald, our beloved Skyler Thompson has left us. He's parted ways.
Beloved is crazy.
Listen, I liked Skyler. I thought he was a nice young man.
He's a good dude for sure.
Yeah. Listen, I don't know if he got a fair shake. The man broke his ribs in the Seattle start.
Yeah.
Finished the game. Obviously, he looked like a deer in headlights the whole game. But if I'm playing with broken ribs, I might look like deer in the headlights too. But that's neither here nor there. Then
like the third quarter, yo. Like we had quarters of tape before.
No. He broke his ribs in the first quarter. Continued to play till he couldn't play anymore.
Oh,
yeah.
It was that. Okay, I know exactly the hitch they're talking about. Okay. Keep going.
So, listen. Besides that, it's Skyler's gone. He is signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's now Mike Tomlin's quarterback and probably maybe one of the only quarterbacks on the roster right now. Yeah. They're going to have that both Russell Wilson and Justin Fields are free agents. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But Miami clearly needs to sign a backup quarterback. I am not of the opinion, despite what some people wrote or thought after the Cleveland game, that Tyler Snoop Huntley is the answer. I haven't seen anything from Tyler, including the Cleveland game, that has ever impressed me. I don't think he's the same kind of processor as Tua. I don't think he's an athlete like Lamar, so that running element is not exactly there. There's so many times he's had the opportunity to escape a pocket and scramble, and he's taken down for sacks. And this is no hatred towards Tyler Snoop Huntley. I think he's an NFL backup. I don't feel like he is the right ideal backup for the Miami Dolphins. Now, there is this thought process out there that was fueled a little bit this week by Brian Baldinger, who came on the QAM airwaves in an interview that I was doing with him. And Baldy basically said this team, the Miami Dolphins, have to draft a quarterback. They have to start developing a young quarterback. And my response to that would be, I don't want these guys. And when I say these guys, I mean Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel. I don't want them drafting a quarterback. And it's nothing against, not now. It's nothing against them, but we're in a prove it, win, or see ya season. And the last thing that I want is to have a new regime come in here after, let's say, you fail to meet expectations, a new GM and a new coach come in here, and then them have to stare down this young rookie quarterback and say to him, sorry, kid, but we want to draft our own. I would rather you use that resource, unless it's just a good quarterback staring at you in the third round. I would rather you use that resource on something that can help you from a talent standpoint, that can help you on an everyday basis. A quarterback does not play unless Tua gets hurt. And if Tua did get hurt, my thought process would be, well, the season and my job is over. And also, if I am going to save my job, it's going to be a veteran quarterback, not a rookie who does save my job. Because my thought process in a series that that's going to begin in the Miami Herald on Sunday, where I look at the promise, potential, and problems for every unit on the Miami Dolphins. My issue with the Dolphins is, okay, we know we got to keep Tua healthy. Okay, so the answer to that is build a better line, get a better run game. Building a better line will help you with the better run game. And on top of that, have a quarterback who, even if he's playing 4 or 6 or 8 games, can win you half of those games, winning percentage-wise. Now, how do you feel about what route this team should go when it comes to finding a backup for Tua.
No, I'm in the same boat as you, man. I definitely agree it should be a veteran. Just because based simply off the fact that when your backup quarterback comes in the game, and McDaniel talked a little bit about this, you want the guys to believe in him, right? You want everyone around him to believe in them. And more often than not, that comes with age, with time in the league, with putting those years under your belt. And so people are going to respect. Oh, good Lord Almighty! That's what is that $5 to the DCC, man?
But it's my own show, so I ain't paying nobody.
Look, you can give me $10. We can talk about that afterwards. But no, I just think that you want to have veteran, backup quarterback should bring a calming presence to the offense, right? And I think the best way for that to happen is for you to sign a veteran. With the rookie quarterback one, it can kind of create a little bit of instability, right? I specifically compared the situation to what happened in Philly, right, with Carson Wentz and Jaylen Herz, right? When they drafted Jaylen Herz, it became, people liked Jaylen.
Divided locker room.
Yeah, and it divided the locker room a little bit. You don't want that to happen. You know what I'm saying?
Unless it happens in a favorable way, even though it cost Doug Peterson his job.
Yeah. I mean, long term, but again, this is all predicated on the belief that Tua is the guy, right? That's what people.
But the Philadelphia Eagles thought Carson Wentz was the guy too.
They obviously did. And so my point was and it's funny because the situations really mirrored each other, right? Like Carson Wentz got paid, then they drafted Jaylen Herz, and it's the same thing with Tua. Tua got paid, and then Chris Greer talked about potentially even drafting a quarterback, right? And so that's kind of where this kind of conversation started because me and you are in agreement. Like I think a veteran quarterback is the way to go. And so if you look at the scene, it's not all that great, right? Like it's. I think I saw like Andy Dalton maybe.
No, he's actually under contract with the Carolina
You're
Panthers.
right. It's not Andy Dalton. Marcus Mariota and Jameis Winston. Those are the two names that I like because if you look at there's certain names that if you look at the list isn't that great, right? So if you look at certain names, it's like I don't want a Daniel Jones personally. We took that line out, but I said I wouldn't want Daniel Jones or Mac Jones anywhere close to my roster, right? I just don't think that they're All right, here we go.
Well, Matt Jones, the working relationship with Tua, maybe, but Matt Jones was a Pro Bowler. Not that he's a good quarterback. I think I've got some guys here that are some of the options that I think could fit. Jimmy Garoppolo, who coincidentally has a 42-21 record. Now, Jimmy Garoppolo has played under Mike McDaniel with the San Francisco 49ers, led them to the Super Bowl. The only issue I have with Jimmy Garoppolo is, from what I understand, him and Mike McDaniel are not exactly close friends, or they don't exactly have a relationship or repertoire, but he does know the offense. However, Jimmy Garoppolo has a reputation. I don't know if you know about Jimmy's reputation.
I'm not.
Jimmy likes the ladies,
okay.
And he particularly likes the ladies in a certain industry.
I have heard about this. Dang, you just unlocked the core memory. Okay. Miami's not the place for it. Miami's not the place.
But exactly, Miami could be a very bad place for him because this is the OnlyFans industry of America. Then we got JoeFlaco, who actually spent time in the offense similar to this with the New York Jets. 105 to 86 record win-loss. JoeFlaco has, is a dinosaur at this point. He's clearly going to be relatively cheap. He probably doesn't want to go back to Indianapolis because he's not really going to get an opportunity to play. But then is JoeFlaco really looking for an opportunity to play? I'm curious. I think that they showed an express interest in JoeFlaco last year. My question is, would they show it this year? And could JoeFlaco be the kind of quarterback that executes and operates Mike McDaniel's offense?
I think that's the number one question, right? I think we both are in agreement with that. You want a veteran. Honestly, I would just off those two names that even though the industry aspect of it, I still would lean towards Garoppolo just because age. Like how JoeFlaco has to be pushing 40 at this point, right? if
Yeah,
not over the age of 40.
he was in the 2008 draft, so I would struggle to do the math. He's definitely close to 40.
So he turned 40 literally today. Happy birthday, JoeFlaco.
Happy birthday, Joe Flacco.
That's something I did not expect to say. Shout out University of Delaware, man.
That is your dude. University of Delaware. Boy, he brought the. I don't want to know what University of Delaware there is, but he put them on the map.
He put the Blue Hens on the map.
Yeah. Then you got guys like Jameis Winston. I think Jameis Winston's time in Cleveland is done. He's probably going to try to find another home. Jameis Winston, obviously, he's charismatic as hell. He could give you 400-yard games. He could also give you four interception games. But he's got what I found disappointing about Jameis Winston is he's been on some good teams. And you know what his record is? 36-51.
Yeah. That's the thing that I didn't like as well when I looked that up. Both him and Mariota have losing records.
You know what makes Mariota very uncomfortable for me as a thought of a backup for Tua Tagovailoa. Tua grew up in Hawaii idolizing Marcus Mariota. That was his hero. That was his idol. That was who he wanted to be. And clearly, Marcus Mariota, we're talking about a guy who won the Heisman. We're talking about a guy who was, an early draft pick for the Tennessee Titans. But we're also talking about a guy who flamed out and didn't have much of a career and is basically just a average, ordinary backup. Now, with Tua, even though they probably got a great relationship, would Tua feel comfortable being the starting quarterback and having his backup having his childhood hero be his flunky? Because
why wouldn't you want that? I feel like I just
that's like you and Bill Roden being like your gopher. Like, do you think that's gonna work?
I think honestly think it would, because like, especially first of all, like, you got to know when it's time to hang it up, right? And I'm pretty sure Marcus Mariota knows, like, I have more days behind me than I do in front of me, right? And so I feel like, as any good mentor would want to do, you want to give the keys. You know what I'm saying? You want to, those little things that you saw that, like, they might not see. And of course, and it's going to be received. Why? Because it's somebody that you looked up to. I totally disagree with you.
You might be selling me on this.
Look,
you actually might be selling me on this.
I think honestly, you respect it more from somebody. You're going to receive it more, from somebody you respect versus, some guy that, obviously he's your teammate. You're going to try to build that rapport with him. But if I have a chance to learn at the foot of somebody while they're on their way out, and it's somebody that I respect, someone I grew up on, I'm taking that opportunity no matter what, 100%.
Okay, you might have sold me on that. But you know what, guy, I am actually a big advocate for. I've always loved Joshua Dobbs in the draft process. I fell in love with him when he was at the University of Tennessee. Now, he hasn't had a starter opportunity in the NFL. He has had some starts. He's got a very disappointing 3-12 record. Now, a lot of those times he's been in situations where he's just put in the game to learn an offense that he barely knows, but teams have traded for him. And he spent last year as the backup with the 49ers offense. As you know, the 49ers run a very similar offense to Miami. And he did well, killed it in the preseason. I think that Joshua Dobbs is a heady, smart, accurate quarterback like Tua, who does give you an athletic element that it intrigues me, and it's going to be a relatively cheap deal. So that's one of the quarterbacks that I'm really in love with as a backup. But then you have the Justin Fields and the Zach Wilson, the rehab projects in my mind. If you added Justin Fields to this offense, even though he's not a similar quarterback to Tua Tagovailoa, I am of the opinion that it would open a lot more of the playbook from an athletic, scrambling quarterback standpoint, and you could bring him in the game on these short yardage situations, which you've struggled with and been horrendous at for the last 3 years.
Yeah. I mean, I like the idea. I just don't see the Steelers letting him go, personally. He's
a free agent.
I know he's a free agent, right? But I personally just don't think that they're gonna. Because I'm sure.
What do you think he's gonna sign up to be the backup? Well, it's a good organization.
I think yes, but I think if Russ resigns, right? I think there's some like the idea and like, look, I have a few friends that are Steelers fans. Like they believe that the succession is going Russell Wilson to Justin Fields. I don't know if that's true, how accurate that is, but honestly, that's what I thought was happening.
Well, you think I'm going to sign somewhere to be the backup to a guy that the coach benched me for, that he wouldn't let me play anymore? I don't think I'm gonna. I don't know what Justin Fields' situation is. I think he's going to be cherry picking his situation. If I were him, I'd be looking at the Raiders, depending on what they do. I'd be looking at the Jets, depending on what happens to Aaron Rodgers. I think Justin Fields is in a situation where he should be looking for an opportunity to compete evenly with the quarterback. Now, will that happen in Miami? It probably won't. But what you should know in the back of your mind is all it takes is one concussion, and that job and that team might be mine.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, you're right, but I the only thing that I need to go watch more Justin Fields tape. But from what I remember seeing him play in Chicago, it was one of the biggest questions was that processing speed, right?
There you go.
And so I'm like, if you bring him in this offense, like
it'll take him a minute.
It'll take him a while, So I'm just worried about that, honestly.
Okay, it'll take him a minute. Then there's Zach Wilson, whose arm intrigues me. Now, he has not panned out in the NFL like people expected when you're the number 2 pick, but he does have a 12-21 record. Obviously, he was playing for the Jets, so that's not an ideal situation. And even though there are other backups like Tyler Snoop-Huntley that are out there, there is a possibility that the team can use a third or a third day pick on a quarterback. Let's say if somebody falls in the draft, like in Alabama's Jalen Milroe. I am absolutely fundamentally opposed to the Dolphins using the 13th pick on a quarterback unless that quarterback is Cam Ward, who somehow slides out of the number 1 spot because they find out he's like some sexual predator or something.
Why would you even throw that? Why'd you have to go there?
Okay, because you can't get caught. You can't get caught smoking weed on film anymore, and anybody cares. So it's got to be like, why would think in your mind? Why would Cam Ward fall from number 1 to 13 like a Laramie Tunsil?
I mean, like, you could have, like, what happened with Jalen Carter? He was speed racing, drag racing, character
Okay,
issues.
All right. My bad.
Like, good God, you went right to, like, he's weird around women.
Scenario.
Crazy.
My bad.
Reel that in a little bit.
All right. Let's say Cam Ward gets caught drag racing, endangering people's lives.
There you go.
All of a sudden, that's the only possible way that I would use, like, a first and even a second round pick on a quarterback. Yeah. I'm not a huge Shedeur Sanders fan. I don't think he has a bona fide NFL arm. People are going to stone me to death because of that opinion. And then I'm just being real with you, I ain't interested in dealing with Daddy Dion. Sorry. Like it's even though they tried to sell that, hey, Shedeur in Miami, that could work. That would be hot because they want to live here.
They want to live here for sure.
I liked it. I rocked with it a little bit, but it ain't for me. But I think that this regime, they don't deserve the right to draft another quarterback, and not in 2025. If you have success in 2025 and you extend your tenure and you're here for 2026, then so be it. If you want to draft, if you went out there and you want a playoff game and you wanted to draft a quarterback, I give you my blessings. But at this particular time, where if you're Chris Greer and you were involved in the selection of Ryan Tannehill, you were an advocate for the trade of Josh Rosen, you drafted Tua Tagovailoa instead of going with Justin Herbert, which was a move that I supported, by the way. You shall not be allowed to pick a 4th quarterback. And I'm not even counting Skyler Thompson because that was a 7th round throw in. Yeah. But I'm sorry. There's got to be a certain amount of quarterbacks that you should have your hands on. And in terms of picking, selecting, and I'm really not a supporter of you getting a 4th opportunity to select the quarterback for a franchise. I'm like, if you had done your job the first time, we wouldn't be here.
Wouldn't even be here. This wouldn't even be a conversation.
It wouldn't even be a conversation. So on that note, I'm curious to see what fans think is the best route for this organization to go from a backup quarterback standpoint. I will actually be here and monitor the comments. And then when we come back on Monday, we'll discuss that here on the next episode on Dolphins In Depth.